The night my boss discovered I'd been fixing his mistakes was the night everything changed. My name is Naomi Washington, and I'm 35 years old. I have a 7-year-old daughter named Kennedy, a one-bedroom apartment in East Atlanta, and a secret I've been keeping for 6 months. I've been rewriting my boss's strategies, correcting his projections, and basically running Sterling Enterprises from my secretary desk while he takes all the credit. And tonight, he just figured it out. Let me back up. 6 months ago, I was desperate. My daughter's father, Troy, had disappeared 2 years earlier, leaving me with a baby and a mountain of debt. I'd been working at a call center, barely making ends meet, when I saw the job posting for a secretary position at Sterling Enterprises. The pay was decent, the hours were stable, and most importantly, they offered health insurance. I didn't tell them I had an MBA from Emory. I didn't mention that I'd run my own marketing consultancy for 3 years before Troy cleaned out our business account and vanished. I definitely didn't say that I was overqualified for filing paperwork and answering phones. I just needed the job. Alexander Sterling hired me after a 10-minute interview. He barely looked at me, just asked if I could start immediately and handle a fast-paced environment. I said yes to both. He nodded, told his HR person process my paperwork, and that was that. For the first month, I did exactly what I was hired to do. I answered phones, scheduled meetings, organized files, picked up his dry cleaning. I was invisible, just another employee in a building full of them. But I couldn't help noticing things, like how the Q2 projections he presented to the board were off by at least 15%, or how his strategy for the Westside development deal was going to cost the company millions in the long run, or how he kept making the same operational mistakes over and over because nobody had the courage to tell him he was wrong. Alexander Sterling was brilliant at vision. He could see opportunities nobody else saw, could negotiate deals that seemed impossible, could inspire investors with a single conversation. But the details, the actual execution, he was drowning in it. So I started fixing things. Small stuff at first. I'd rework projection and leave it on his desk with a note that said, updated numbers. I'd adjust a contract clause and mark it as a legal recommendation. I'd reorganize the schedule to maximize efficiency and tell him his previous assistant must have set it up that way. He never questioned it. He'd glance at my corrections, use them in his meetings, and move on. And the company started doing better. A lot better. Deals that should have fallen apart somehow succeeded. Projections that seemed ambitious actually hit their targets. The board started calling Alexander a genius. Articles were written about his business instincts. He was being compared to the great CEOs of our generation. All because I was fixing his work at 11 p.m. after I put my daughter to bed. I told myself it was fine. I was helping the company, which meant I was protecting my job. And as long as nobody knew, there was no harm in it. Until tonight. It was almost 9 p.m. on a Thursday. Kennedy was at my mama's house for the night because I told her I had to work late. The office was empty except for the cleaning crew and me. I was in the conference room, working on Alexander's presentation for tomorrow's investor meeting. The original version he created was a disaster. Unfocused, missing key data points, and making promises the company couldn't keep. I'd been reworking it for 2 hours, completely absorbed in fixing the revenue projections, when I heard his voice behind me. What are you doing? I jumped, nearly knocking over my coffee. Alexander stood in the doorway, his suit jacket off, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. His dark blonde hair was messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. His hazel eyes were locked on the presentation, displayed on the big screen. Mr. Sterling, I said, standing up quickly. I thought you'd left for the day. I came back for my briefcase. What are you doing with my presentation? My mind raced. I was just reviewing it for tomorrow, making sure everything was formatted correctly. Formatted. He walked into the room slowly, his eyes never leaving the screen. Is that what you call completely restructure my entire pitch? My stomach dropped. He picked up the remote and started clicking through the slides. His original version, then my version, back and forth. The differences were obvious. His was surface level. Mine was strategic, detailed, backed by data he hadn't even looked at. How long? he asked quietly. How long what? How long have you been doing this? He turned to face me, and there was something dangerous in his expression. Not anger exactly. Something else. How long have you been fixing my work? I could have lied. Should have lied. But I was tired. Tired of hiding. Tired of watching him take credit. Tired of being invisible. 6 months, I said. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. 6 months, he repeated. You've been managing me for 6 months, and I didn't even know it. I wasn't managing you. I was helping. Helping. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You've been rewriting my strategies, correcting my projections, doing the actual work while I stand in boardrooms taking credit for your intelligence. You didn't ask me to stop. I didn't know I needed to. He moved closer, and I instinctively took a step back. Who else knows? Nobody. Nobody knows that my secretary is the one actually running this company. I'm not running anything. I'm just fixing small things here and there. Small things. He gestured to the screen. This presentation could make or break a $50 million deal. You rewrote the entire financial model. You identified risks I completely missed. You created solutions I never would have thought of, and you call that small. What do you want me to say? I shot back, my own frustration rising. That I'm sorry for making you look good, that I regret helping this company succeed. I want you to tell me why. He was standing right in front of me now, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Why would someone with your skills waste time being a secretary? Why hide what you can do? Because I have a daughter to feed and rent to pay, I said. Because I can't afford to be unemployed while I look for something better. Because sometimes survival matters more than pride. Something shifted in his expression. He studied my face like he was seeing me for the first time. You have an MBA, don't you? He said quietly. I didn't answer. That's why you knew the projections were wrong. That's why you understood the financial models. You're not just smart. You're trained. He ran a hand through his hair. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? Yes. Really? You would have hired an overqualified single mother with gaps in her resume and a failed business in her past? Or would you have passed me over for someone who looked better on paper? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. That's what I thought. I said, grabbing my bag. It's late. I should go. Naomi. The way he said my name stopped me. I turned back. Don't come in tomorrow as my secretary, he said. My heart sank. Of course. Now that he knew the truth, I was fired. I'd been stupid to think this could end any other way. I understand, I said quietly. I'll clear out my desk tonight. That's not what I meant. He stepped closer again. Come in as my partner. Chief Strategy Officer. Equal say in every major decision. Salary to match. And before you say no, understand something. He was so close now, I had to tilt my head back to look at him. I don't steal moments, he said, his voice low. I don't do half measures or hiding in the shadows. If you're going to be in my life, if you're going to be this important to what I'm building, then I want all of you. Your time, your brilliance, your strategy. Not scraps at 9 p.m. when everyone's gone home. Hours, Naomi. I want hours. My breath caught. This is about business. Is it? His eyes dropped to my lips before returning to my eyes. Because I'm looking at the woman who's been saving my company for 6 months, and all I can think about is how I've been blind to everything that matters. Mr. Sterling, Alexander, and I'm not your boss anymore. Not if you take this job. We'd be equals, partners. I have a daughter. I have responsibilities. I can't just jump into something risky because you suddenly noticed I exist. I know you have a daughter, and I know you're careful because you've been hurt before. But I'm not asking you to jump into anything except a job you're already doing. The difference is, this time you get the recognition you deserve, the salary you deserve, the title you deserve. He reached up and tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear, and the gesture was so intimate it made my pulse race. Take the weekend to think about it, he said softly. But Naomi, I mean what I said. When I commit to something, I commit fully, and I'm committing to you. The question is whether you're brave enough to let me. He stepped back, grabbed his briefcase, and walked out of the conference room, leaving me standing there with my heart pounding and my entire world turned upside down. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my small living room after checking on Kennedy, who was still at my mama's house, and stared at the walls like they held answers. Alexander Sterling had just offered me everything I'd worked for, a real position, recognition, money that could change my daughter's life. And he'd said it all while looking at me like I was more than just an employee. That was the part that scared me. I'd been down this road before. Troy had looked at me the same way once, like I was special, like I mattered, and then he drained our business account, disappeared, and left me holding a baby and a pile of debt that took me 2 years to climb out of. Men who wanted things always looked at you like you were the answer to all their problems, right up until you became the problem. By the time the sun came up Friday morning, I'd made my decision. I was going to turn him down. Politely, professionally. I'd finish out the week, find another job, and walk away before this got complicated. But first, I had to pick up Kennedy. My mama lived in a small house in College Park, the same house where she'd raised me and my 2 sisters. It was old, needed repairs, but was paid off and it was home. I pulled into the driveway at 7 a.m. and found Mama already on the porch with her coffee, wearing her housecoat and slippers. "You're early," she said as I climbed the steps. Couldn't sleep. She gave me that look, the one that said she already knew something was wrong. "Kennedy's still asleep. Sit down and talk to me." I sat in the chair next to her, accepting the coffee she poured from the thermos she always kept outside. "What happened?" she asked. I told her everything. The 6 months of fixing Alexander's work, him catching me, the job offer, the way he'd looked at me. All of it. Mama listened without interrupting, sipping her coffee, letting me get it all out. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "What are you afraid of?" she finally asked. "I'm not afraid. Baby, I raised you. Don't lie to me. What are you afraid of?" I stared at my coffee cup. That he's like Troy. That he wants something from me, and once he gets it, he'll disappear like everyone else. Is he like Troy? I don't know. Yes, you do. Mama set her cup down. Troy was a boy playing at being a man. He had big dreams and no follow-through. He made promises he had no intention of keeping. This Alexander, does he sound like that? I thought about the way Alexander had looked at my work, the way he'd admitted he'd been blind, the way he'd offered me partnership, not just a job. "No," I admitted. "Then what's really stopping you?" "Kennedy, if I take this job and it goes bad, it doesn't just affect me. It affects her. What if he fires me in 3 months? What if this whole thing falls apart? What if it doesn't?" Mama reached over and took my hand. "Baby, you've been protecting yourself for so long. You've forgotten how to let good things in. Not every man is Troy. Not every opportunity is a trap. Sometimes God puts something in your path, and all you have to do is be brave enough to take it. What if I'm not brave enough? You worked 3 jobs while pregnant. You built a business from nothing. You raised that beautiful girl in there all by yourself. You've been brave your whole life. Don't stop now." Kennedy appeared in the doorway then, rubbing her eyes, her braids messy from sleep. She wore her favorite pajamas, the ones with the unicorns on them. "Mommy." She ran to me, and I caught her in a hug. "Hey, baby, did you have fun with Grandma?" "We made cookies and watched movies, and Grandma let me stay up late." "Of course she did." I kissed her forehead. "You ready to go home? Can we get pancakes first?" I looked at Mama, who was already smiling. "I hop," she suggested. "Ihop, iogrid." We spent the morning at the restaurant, Kennedy chattering about everything and nothing while I tried to focus on being present. But my mind kept drifting back to Alexander, to the conference room, to the way he'd said my name. "When I take you, I want hours." By the time I dropped Kennedy at her after-school program Monday morning and headed to Sterling Enterprises, I still hadn't made up my mind. I'd spent the entire weekend going back and forth, making lists of pros and cons, talking myself into it and then out of it again. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt different this time. I wasn't just the secretary coming in to answer phones. I was walking into a conversation that could change everything. Alexander's office door was open when I arrived. He stood at his windows, looking out at the city, phone to his ear. "I'll call you back," he said when he saw me, ending the conversation without waiting for a response. We stared at each other across the space. "You came back," he said. "I work here." "That's not what I meant." I set my bag down carefully. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Anything." "Why me? You could hire anyone. Someone with a perfect resume, no gaps, no complications. Why offer this job to someone who lied on their application?" He walked toward me slowly. "Because you're the smartest person in this building. Because you've been doing the work already and doing it better than anyone I could hire. And because when I look at you, I see someone who understands what it means to fight for what matters." "That's not the whole truth." "No," he admitted, stopping a few feet away. "The whole truth is that I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since Thursday night. The whole truth is that I want you in my life in every way that matters. But I'm also smart enough to know that you need time. You need proof. You need me to earn your trust. I have a daughter." "I know." "She comes first. Always. No matter what. As she should. If I take this job and you change your mind, if you decide I'm not what you want, I need to know I'll still have a position here. That Kennedy stability won't depend on whether you and I work out." Alexander pulled a folder from his desk and handed it to me. Contract. Chief Strategy Officer position. 3-year guarantee, full benefits, salary of $250,000 plus performance bonuses. Termination clause that protects you even if we have a personal relationship that ends. I had legal draw it up Friday night. I opened the folder with shaking hands. It was all there, everything he'd promised, and more. "You were that sure I'd say yes?" "I was that sure you deserved it either way." He moved closer. "Naomi, I'm not asking you to trust me with your heart. Not yet. I'm asking you to trust me with your career. Let me prove I'm worth the risk." I looked at the contract, at the salary that would change Kennedy's life, at the title I'd earned but never thought I'd get, at the man standing in front of me, looking at me like I was a solution to every problem he'd ever had. Mama's voice echoed in my head. "Sometimes God puts something in your path, and all you have to do is be brave enough to take it." "Okay," I said quietly. "Okay. I'll take the job, but we keep it professional. No complications. Just work." Something flickered across his face. Disappointment, maybe, but he nodded. "If that's what you need." "It is." "Then that's what we'll do." He extended his hand. "Welcome to the team, partner." I shook his hand, and the moment our skin touched, I felt it, that spark, that pull, that dangerous thing I was trying so hard to ignore. This was going to be harder than I thought. The first 2 weeks as Chief Strategy Officer were the hardest of my life, not because of the work. The work was exactly what I'd been doing for 6 months, except now I had an office, a real budget, and actual authority to make decisions. I thrived on it. No, the hard part was Alexander. He kept his word about keeping things professional. We had morning strategy meetings, afternoon check-ins, constant collaboration on every major decision. He valued my opinion, implemented my suggestions, introduced me to the board as his equal. On paper, everything was perfect, but there were moments when his hand would brush mine as we reached for the same document, when he'd lean over my shoulder to look at my computer screen, and I'd smell his cologne, when we'd work late into the night, and he'd look at me across the conference table like he was holding himself back from saying something. And the worst part? I felt it too. I noticed everything about him. The way he rolled his sleeves up when he was frustrated. The way his voice changed when he was excited about an idea. The way he listened when I talked, really listened, like every word mattered. I was in trouble and I knew it. It was a Wednesday afternoon when everything shifted. We were in his office, reviewing the final numbers for the West Side Development Project. It was the biggest deal of the year, worth over $100 million, and we'd been working on it for weeks. "These projections look solid," Alexander said, leaning back in his chair. You've accounted for every variable. Almost every variable. We're still exposed if the city delays the permits. They won't. I have assurances. Assurances aren't guarantees. He smiled. You don't trust anyone, do you? I trust data. People are unpredictable. Including me? I looked up from my laptop. He was watching me with that expression again, the one that made my heart beat faster. Especially you, I said quietly. Why? Because you look at me like you want something I'm not ready to give. And what do you think I want? I don't know. That's the problem. He stood up and walked around his desk, leaning against it, so he was closer to me. You want honesty? I want everything. I want late nights working on strategies and early mornings drinking coffee and conversations that last for hours. I want to know what makes you laugh and what scares you and what you dream about when you let yourself dream. I want to meet your daughter and prove to you that not all men are like her father. My breath caught. Alexander. But I also know you're not ready. So I'm waiting, and I'll keep waiting until you are. What if I'm never ready? Then I'll still be grateful I got to work with you, that I got to know you, even if it's just like this. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Kennedy's school. My heart jumped into my throat. I have to take this, I said, answering quickly. Hello, Ms. Washington? This is Principal Davis. Kennedy's fine, but she's in the nurse's office with a fever. We need you to come pick her up. I'll be right there. I hung up and started gathering my things, my mind already racing through logistics. Kennedy's pediatrician, medicine at home, whether I had enough sick days saved up. What's wrong? Alexander asked. Kennedy's sick. I have to go get her. Of course. Go. We can finish this later. I was halfway to the door when he called my name. Naomi, wait. I turned back. Does she have a doctor? He asked. Yes, but I'll probably have to wait hours for an appointment. He picked up his phone and made a call. Dr. Chin? Alexander Sterling. I need a favor. A friend's daughter is sick and needs to be seen today. Can you fit her in? He paused, listening. Perfect. I'll send them over now. Thank you. He hung up and looked at me. Dr. Margaret Chun, pediatrician. She's expecting you in 30 minutes. Her office is in Buckhead. I stared at him. You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. Something cracked open in my chest. This man who barely knew me had just used his connections to help my daughter. No hesitation, no expectations, just help. Thank you, I whispered. Go take care of your girl. And Naomi, take tomorrow off if you need to. Kennedy comes first. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, and left. Dr. Chin was amazing. She saw Kennedy immediately, diagnosed her with a mild flu, prescribed medicine, and refused to let me pay because Alexander had already taken care of it. By the time we got home, Kennedy was already feeling better thanks to the children's Tylenol. I settled her on the couch with her favorite blanket and cartoons, then went to the kitchen to make soup. My phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. How is she? Better. Thank you again for Dr. Chun. Anytime. I'm having dinner sent over. You shouldn't have to cook tonight. You don't have to do that. I know. I want to. 30 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. A delivery person stood there with bags from Busy Bee Cafe, one of the best soul food restaurants in Atlanta. Fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, even sweet potato pie. Kennedy's eyes lit up when she saw the food. Mommy, is it a special day? Yeah, baby. I guess it is. We ate together on the couch, Kennedy chattering between bites about her day before she got sick. And I thought about Alexander, about the fact that he'd sent soul food, not some fancy restaurant meal, about the fact that he'd thought about what we'd actually want to eat, about the fact that maybe, just maybe, he was nothing like Troy at all. That night, after Kennedy was asleep, I sent him a text. Thank you for dinner. It was perfect. His response came immediately. I'm glad. Get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow. But then another text came through. And Naomi, I meant what I said. I'm not going anywhere. Take all the time you need. I stared at those words for a long time. The next day, I brought Kennedy to work with me. I knew it wasn't professional, but I didn't have childcare, and I had important meetings I couldn't miss. I'd set her up in my office with her iPad and activities, hoping she'd stay quiet. Alexander found us an hour later. He knocked on my open door, then smiled when he saw Kennedy at my desk, coloring. "You must be Kennedy," he said, kneeling down to her level. "I am Alexander. I work with your mom." Kennedy looked at him suspiciously. "Are you her boss?" "We're partners, actually. We work together." "Oh." She went back to coloring. "Mommy says you helped us yesterday. I was happy to help." "Do you like unicorns?" Alexander looked at her seriously. "I think unicorns are probably the most important animals that don't exist." Kennedy giggled. "That's silly." "Maybe, but it's true." He spent 10 minutes talking to my daughter about unicorns, her favorite colors, and what she wanted to be when she grew up. And he did it like she was the most interesting person in the world, not an inconvenience in his workday. When he finally stood up to leave, Kennedy looked at me and whispered, loud enough for him to hear, "I like him, Mommy." "Me too, baby," I whispered back before I could stop myself. Alexander's eyes met mine across the room, and the look in them made my heart race. "I'll see you in the meeting," he said quietly, and left. Kennedy went back to her coloring. But I sat there for a long moment, realizing something important. I was falling for him, and I had no idea how to stop. 3 weeks later, we closed a West Side development deal. The boardroom erupted in applause when the contracts were signed. $120 million, the biggest deal in Sterling Enterprises history. Alexander stood at the head of the table, shaking hands with investors, but his eyes kept finding mine across the room. This was our victory. Together, after the meeting, he pulled me aside in the hallway. "Dinner tonight. To celebrate." "Alexander, I don't know if that's a good idea. It's just dinner, Naomi. 2 partners celebrating a major win. Nothing more unless you want it to be." I hesitated. Kennedy was spending the night at my mama's again. I had no excuse except my own fear. "Okay," I said. "Just dinner." "Just dinner," he agreed, but the way he looked at me suggested he was hoping for more. He picked me up at 7. I'd changed 3 times before settling on a deep purple dress that hugged my curves but stayed professional. My hair was down in loose curls, and I'd actually put on makeup for the first time in weeks. When I opened the door, the look on his face made all the effort worth it. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." He wore a black suit with no tie, the top button of his shirt undone. Casual elegance that probably cost more than my rent. The restaurant was in Buckhead, upscale but not pretentious. We were seated at a private table in the back, away from the crowd. Wine was poured, menus were presented, and suddenly we were alone in a way we'd never been before. "Tell me something about you that's not in your resume," Alexander said after we'd ordered. "Like what?" "Anything. What do you do when you're not working or being a mom?" I thought about it. Honestly, I don't remember the last time I did something just for me. It's always work or Kennedy or both. That needs to change. Maybe. What about you? What does the great Alexander Sterling do for fun? "I work. I make deals. I build things." He paused. "It sounds empty when I say it out loud. It sounds lonely." It was, until you, my breath caught. "Alexander, I know, professional, partners. But Naomi, we're not at the office right now. And I need you to know that these past few weeks, working with you, getting to know you and Kennedy, have been the best weeks of my life. You make me want to be better, to do better. You don't need me for that. You're already successful. Success isn't the same as happiness. I learned that the hard way." He reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm happy when I'm with you, when we're solving problems together, when you challenge my ideas, when you look at me like I'm not just a CEO, but a person. I'm happy." I should have pulled my hand away, should have reminded him of boundaries, of professional distance, of all the reasons this was complicated. Instead, I held on tighter. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Kennedy's father destroyed me, not just financially, but emotionally. He made me believe I wasn't enough, that I'd never be enough. And when he left, part of me believed him. He was wrong. Was he? I couldn't keep him. Couldn't make him stay. Couldn't make him want to be a father to his own daughter. Alexander stood up and moved the chair beside me, never letting go of my hand. Look at me, Naomi. I did. You are brilliant, strong, and more capable than anyone I've ever met. The fact that he couldn't see that, couldn't appreciate what he had, says everything about him and nothing about you. You didn't fail. He did. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know that you worked yourself to exhaustion to take care of your daughter. I know that you fixed my mistakes for 6 months without asking for credit. I know that you're sitting here right now, terrified, and you still showed up. That's not someone who isn't enough. That's someone who's everything. A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. He reached up and wiped it away gently. I'm not him, Naomi. I'm not going to make promises I can't keep or disappear when things get hard. When I commit to something, I commit fully. And I'm trying to commit to you if you'll let me. What about Kennedy? What if she gets attached and you decide this is what you want? I've already thought about that. Kennedy is part of you, which means she's part of this. I'm not asking you to keep her separate from your life. I'm asking to be part of both your lives. This is crazy. We work together. It could get messy. It could, or it could be the best decision either of us ever makes. He leaned closer. I told you once that I want hours, not stolen moments. I meant it. I want Friday nights and lazy Sundays and school pickups and every complicated, beautiful piece of your life. But only if you want that too. I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd value my work, help my daughter, and was sitting here now, putting his heart on the line. I want that, I whispered. I'm terrified, but I want that. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Yeah. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. But I didn't. When his lips touched mine, it felt like coming home, like everything I'd been protecting myself from, and everything I'd been hoping for all at once. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper. His hand cupped my face, and I leaned into him, letting myself feel everything I'd been holding back. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. I should probably take you home, he said quietly. Probably. Before I do something that definitely isn't professional. I laughed, and it felt good. Kennedy's at my mama's for the night. His eyes darkened. Naomi, I know what I'm saying. I'm scared, but I'm also tired of being scared. I want this. I want you. He stood up, threw money on the table without counting it, and held out his hand. Let's get out of here. We barely made it to his car before he was kissing me again, pressing me against the passenger door, his hands in my hair. Your place or mine, he murmured against my lips. Yours. I don't want to think about responsibilities or consequences or anything except this. The drive to his penthouse was a blur. We kept our hands to ourselves barely, the tension between us almost unbearable. His place was everything I expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, art on the walls. But I barely noticed because he was kissing me again the moment the door closed, walking me backward toward the bedroom. Tell me if you want to stop, he said, pulling back to look at me. Any time, any reason. We can stop. I don't want to stop. Good. Because I've been wanting this since the moment I saw you in that conference room, fixing my presentation like you own the place. I was just doing my job. You were being extraordinary. You are extraordinary. He kissed me again, slower this time, his hands moving over my body like he was memorizing every curve. And for the first time in years, I let myself be vulnerable, let myself trust, let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be real. We spent the night wrapped up in each other, talking between kisses, laughing, learning. And when I finally fell asleep in his arms, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Safe. I woke up to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and Alexander's arm draped across my waist. For a moment, I just lay there, taking it in. The expensive sheets, the view of Atlanta stretching out below us, the warmth of his body against mine. Then reality hit. What had I done? I'd slept with my business partner, my boss. Technically, even if we were supposed to be equals, I'd crossed every professional line I'd sworn I wouldn't cross. Stop thinking so loud, Alexander murmured, pulling me closer. I can hear your brain spinning from here. We have a meeting Monday morning. I know. With the board. I know. Alexander, what did we just do? He propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me with those hazel eyes that had got me into the situation in the first place. We started something real. And before you panic, yes, it's complicated. Yes, we work together. Yes, there are 1,000 reasons why this could be messy. But Naomi, I don't care about any of that. You should. Your company, your reputation, everything you build could be affected if this goes wrong. And everything in my life could finally be right if this goes well. He brushed a curl away from my face. I've spent 15 years building an empire. Know what I realized last night? None of it matters if I don't have someone to share it with. Someone who challenges me, who sees me as more than just a CEO, who makes me want to be better. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. Good thing you can handle pressure. He kissed my forehead. Stay. Let me make you breakfast. Let's just have this morning before we go back to reality. So I stayed. We made breakfast together in his massive kitchen. He attempted pancakes while I scrambled eggs, and we argued about the right way to cook bacon. It was domestic and simple and perfect. Kennedy likes you, I said as we sat at his dining table, overlooking the city. I like her too. She's smart. Asks good questions. She asked me if you were going to be her new daddy. Alexander went still. What did you say? I told her we were friends, that we worked together. I paused, but she's 7. She sees things clearly that adults try to complicate. She knows there's something between us. Is that okay? With you? I don't know yet, but I think it could be. I took a breath. My whole life, I've been protecting her. From disappointment. From men who might leave. From getting attached to people who won't stay. But maybe I've been protecting her from good things too. I'm not going anywhere, Naomi. Not from you, not from Kennedy. I know I have to prove that, and I will, however long it takes. My phone rang then. My mama. I answered, my heart jumping. Everything okay? Everything's fine, baby. Kennedy just wanted to talk to you. Mommy. Kennedy's voice came through, bright and happy. Grandma made me French toast with strawberries. That sounds amazing, baby. Are you being good? Yes. When are you coming to get me? I looked at Alexander. He mouthed, invite them to lunch. Actually, how would you and Grandma like to have lunch with me and Alexander today? There was a pause. Then Kennedy squealed. Really? The unicorn man? I laughed. Yes, the unicorn man. Yes, yes, yes. Grandma, we're having lunch with the unicorn man. I heard my mama in the background. The what now? I'll explain later, Mama. We'll pick you both up in an hour? After I hung up, Alexander was grinning. The unicorn man? That's what she calls you. Because of your conversation about unicorns being the most important animals that don't exist. I stand by that statement. He stood up. I should probably not look like I just rolled out of bed when I meet your mother. Probably not. An hour later, we pulled up to my mama's house. She was on the porch with Kennedy, both of them watching as Alexander's Tesla parked in the driveway. My mama's expression was unreadable as we walked up. Mama, this is Alexander Sterling. Alexander, this is my mother, Patricia Washington. Mrs. Washington, it's an honor to meet you. Alexander extended his hand. Mama shook it, studying him with those eyes that saw everything. The man who hired my daughter. The woman who raised an extraordinary daughter, he countered smoothly. Kennedy ran up and hugged me, then looked up at Alexander. Are you taking us somewhere fancy? If that's okay with your mom and grandmother, yes. Very fancy, I confirmed. So we need to go home and change first. We ended up at South City Kitchen, a place that was nice but not so formal that Kennedy would be uncomfortable. Mama watched Alexander throughout lunch, asking him questions that seemed casual but were actually an interrogation. "So you're a businessman," she said. "Yes, ma'am. Real estate development primarily. And you hired Naomi as your secretary." "Initially, yes, but she's now my chief strategy officer. Equal partner in the business." "Hum. And when did that change happen?" "When I realized she'd been doing the real work for 6 months and I'd been taking credit for it." He didn't hesitate, didn't try to make himself look better. "I was blind to what was right in front of me. But I'm not blind anymore." Kennedy was coloring on the kids' menu, but I could tell she was listening to everything. Mama leaned back in her chair. "My daughter has been hurt before, by a man who made promises he didn't keep. I know, and I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I can promise I'll show up, that I'll respect her, value her, and treat her daughter like the blessing she is." "Words are easy, Mrs. Sterling." "Yes, ma'am, which is why I'm hoping you'll let me prove it with actions." Something shifted in Mama's expression. She looked at me, then at Alexander, then at Kennedy, who was now showing Alexander her coloring. "Naomi tells me you helped when Kennedy was sick." Mama said, "She needed a good doctor. I knew one, and you sent them dinner." "BCB Cafe" seemed like the right choice. Mama smiled for the first time. "You did your homework. I wanted to get it right." After lunch, as we walked to the car, Mama pulled me aside while Alexander took Kennedy to look at a fountain. "That man loves you," she said quietly. "Mama, it's only been a few weeks. I've been alive long enough to know what love looks like. He looks at you like you hung the moon, like you're the answer to every question he's ever asked." She squeezed my hand. "The question is, do you love him back?" I watched Alexander kneeling down to Kennedy's level, listening seriously as she explained something about the fountain. He was patient, attentive, genuine, and my heart felt so full it might burst. "Yeah, Mama," he whispered, "I think I do." "Then stop being scared and let yourself be happy." 6 months later, Alexander and I stood in front of the board of directors, presenting our plan to expand Sterling Enterprises into affordable housing development. It was risky, unconventional, and exactly the kind of project that could change lives. The board approved it unanimously. After the meeting, Alexander pulled me into his office and kissed me like we weren't at work. "We did it," he said. "We make a good team. The best team." He pulled a small box from his desk drawer, "which is why I wanted to ask you something." My heart stopped. "Naomi Washington, you are the smartest, strongest, most incredible woman I've ever met. You've changed my life in every way that matters. You made me better, made me happier, made me whole." He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring. "Will you marry me?" I looked at the ring, at him, at the life we'd built together, the partnership that had become so much more. "Yes," I said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring on my finger and kissed me again. That night, we told Kennedy together. She screamed with joy, jumped up and down, and asked if she could be the flower girl. Alexander promised she could be anything she wanted. As I watched him swing my daughter around the living room, both of them laughing, I thought about how far I'd come. From a desperate single mother taking a secretary job to a woman with a career, a partner, and a future that looked nothing like I'd imagined but everything like I'd hoped. Alexander caught my eye over Kennedy's head and mouthed, I love you too." I mouthed back, and I finally understood what Mama had been trying to tell me all along. Sometimes you have to be brave enough to let the good things in, to trust that not every man is Troy, that not every risk ends in heartbreak. Sometimes the biggest risk is the one that gives you everything you never knew you needed. What would you rate this story? Drop 0 to 10 in the comments right now. If this story moved you, hit subscribe for more emotional journeys every day. And if it truly touched your heart, consider leaving a super thanks. Your support helps us create more stories like this. Every contribution, big or small, means the world. Ready for the next story? It's even more dramatic than this one. Click now. Thank you for being part of this journey.